Music is a form of expression that touches the spirit and leaves a lasting impression. Joining me to talk about the impact creative outlets have on artists and in turn their audiences is musician John Acevedo, a member of the Orange County Pacific Symphony, and Christina Linhardt, a poet, writer, and musician. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having us.
It is so lovely to see the two of you.
She's also an actor.
What, John?
She's an actress too.
Oh, I look forward to hearing a little bit about that as well. I was going to start off by saying that I know that the two of you recently collaborated on a piece entitled The Spirit Solitude. John, you composed the music and then you reached out to Christina, who then added her magical touch. So, John, what was your original inspiration for this musical piece?
Well, I didn't really compose it. It's a improvisation on an etude by Astor Piazzolla, and the music it just went. I saw a few performances of it. There's another viola performance and a violin performance. It's originally written for flute, and it's an etude on how I dance a lot of tango, and I listen to a lot of tango music. I mean, every day, almost every day. And so this is a study in how to play a slow tango. They happen in the middle of the night, and usually there's an Argentinian guy. He's speaking, not singing. He's usually speaking, and there's a slow melody with him. And this is kind of a study on how to embellish that slow melody. So I started studying this thing, and I'm playing it, and I'm adding on. It was originally for flute, so I'm making it for a string instrument. I'm adding all kinds of notes and double stops and slides, and then I have a good friend in Christina, and I'm starting to, when I perform something, I have like visions, a storyline in my head. So that's how I memorize the music. I don't memorize the notes. I memorize the character of the song. Well, this song is pretty stark without anything else. So I tried to get some Argentinian musicians to back up the melody and stuff like that. But everybody's in lockup. Nobody's doing anything. So I talked to her, and we have another project that we'll talk about later that's the same kind of thing with words, with music, that I'm supposed to be doing. But this project, I sent it to her really quick. I said, here's 10 sections. I recorded it in sections so that she could just write a little something for each section. And she says, okay, I'll think about it. In one day, she got it back to me. And then I said, okay, let's rehearse it. Let's rehearse it. Then we met one short time, and I said, and it went very well. And I needed to record it. I recorded it, what we did, because it's all kind of ad lib, and try to put it together I put the words and the music together in a kind of a rough draft. And I said, let's rehearse it again. Then I got COVID, and she can't see me. Then, okay, I'm better. Then she got COVID. We couldn't rehearse it. So after we're all pretty much better, we rehearsed it twice. And then she studied this kind of performance at Cal Arts.
Well, I went to USC, but I had friends at Cal Arts while I was at USC, and I ended up performing at Cal Arts a lot more because Cal Arts was very open to more improvisation and expression. And so yes, when John sent me the piece of music, the first thing that came to mind was, because it was in the heart of when we really shut down. No stores were open, the parks weren't even open, the beaches weren't open, everything was shut down. And I was very concerned about so many communities, because I worked in a lot of underserved communities in Los Angeles, and I really was worried about not just the virus for them, but for people, children who have no access to going to school, don't even have access to computers to get to the Zoom classes. And I saw these long hallways of solitude. It felt sort of Victorian era to me. And it felt like this spirit going down these long hallways of solitude and what we're all going through. And so I just pretty much wrote what came to me.
That's what I thought was so beautiful. There were lyrics as I was watching the video that you recorded, and I'm going to quote them. You said, "The world as we know it has changed." And that's so true.
Yeah, and that was still back in the time when I thought, because that when was that? That was it was just May. I remember it was May because it was right when I came out of my surgery, and I thought, oh, everything's going to be back to normal by June, and here we are, and then the whole year, so the world really has changed, and there will be things that they'll change forever.
Both of you are artists. What type of feedback have you received from fellow musicians, from friends and family about this particular piece?
Oh, I've gotten a lot of great response from people about this piece, that it captures what's going on in society right now. Although it's a very brief soliloquy of what's happening, but for the musicians, we're just sitting at home. I can't go anywhere. All I can do is practice. That's it. And I don't have a family with me. I don't have a significant other. I practice. I'm a very avid dancer, so I dance a lot. I have occasionally some people take a chance and they come over and dance with me, but they're not going anywhere else. Then they go back, and I'm all by myself again, practicing and all the time. So when I sent it to her, I really worked on this piece a lot. I had it all by memory and everything. So it was easy for me to follow her words. And then I made it a little more difficult for her because she had to follow me a little bit in a couple of places.
The writing part was easy, writing the poem, because the way John performed it and the piece and how he arranged it just spoke immediately to me. But the painstaking part was getting it to fit right into the music, because John's a virtuoso. So it wasn't just speak music. It had to fit into different areas. So that was the hard part. And first I'm like, forget it. I'm so glad that we worked on it, and it was and the filming, Laszlo, who filmed it for us, I thought did a nice job, and we got wonderful response from the Pacific Symphony. From the marketing director had reached out and posted about it on the blog, and so yeah, so it's been very fulfilling that we did it. I'm really glad we did it.
Well, I'm so happy that the two of you are doing better. John mentioned that both of you had COVID, so I'm so pleased to know that both of you are doing so much better. And
thank you. So I was going to say my case was so mild. I lost my sense of smell, and I felt lightheaded. But other than that, I didn't feel sick. And that's sort of what's novel about this virus, is that some people don't even feel a thing. My significant other didn't feel a thing. He felt fabulous, actually. He was working out all the time.
And he got it. He got it also.
He never would have known, which is why it spread so much, is because they predict like 30% of the population who had it didn't even know they had it, because he felt fabulous, but he had to test because I had it. And I wouldn't have even thought I had it, but I was testing for my veterans, but I felt lightheaded. And so I wrote about that too. I wrote a little article about channeling COVID, but so it's very different. And then other people pass away from it. So it's I think that's why there's been a lot of concern about it, is that nobody knows, you could have had it and never known.
Yeah, when I got it, it was pretty serious for 3 days. I mean, I was pretty knocked out. But I got it just when Los Angeles first started to open back up. That's when I took a chance. I went out to a friend's party. There's only like 6-7 people there. But I don't think I got it from the party. I also went downtown to the garment district right before that. So I had a big breakout there. So I'm sure I got it from that garment district, because nobody at the party got it. Nobody had it. So it was pretty serious. But back to some of the response from the video. My conductor wrote me a very nice email saying that the music the words depicted the music, the commingling and the meaning of the sound with the words was very, very, very keen.
John, I know that you've had the opportunity as a musician to travel across Europe, Asia. What have those experiences been like? And when did you start playing?
Oh, I started playing. I'm a product of the public school system. So I was exposed to music in the public schools. I wasn't brought up as a, usually nowadays, the little kids I study, the parents or the tiger moms bringing them to me, and you try to make them win all these competitions and everything. For me, I started in the middle of high school. I was my first teacher in the middle of high school. So I was just totally inspired, and you follow what you like to do. And then my family are very notable athletes. One's a pro baseball player. I have two uncles in the Olympics, but I realized I'm a very good athlete at that point, and I was doing sports all the time. But I also realized I'm not the kind of athlete they were. When they would walk on the field or the gym, nobody could touch them. So good, right? So I felt a little bit inferior to them, although I was very good. And so I got playing this viola thing in the orchestra, and I asked my conductor, I said, when's the peak level of your playing? When do you lose everything? Because I watched all my relatives go a little bit crazy when they couldn't do their championship things anymore. And he says, oh, about 55. He says, about 55, you got all the knowledge and the skill, and you can put it all together. So, oh, that's great, a long career. That's all I was worried about. I wanted to be able to do something, for a long time that I like to do, that I wouldn't lose it at my 30 years old. You can't do gymnastics anymore. You can't play baseball that well. You have to redo your whole life. And I saw my relatives, this pretty traumatic thing for them, when you go from being the best at something to not being able to do it anymore. So I was very concerned with that at 16 years old. So then I just changed everything. And that's what I did. And as far as traveling, I just went to China a year and a half before the COVID hit. So I was over there, and everything was, trying to breathe the air was a little bit tough, but they had just started to. I guess there's a lot of touring organizations are going to China now. A lot of orchestras, because they were trying to get the population. When I was there, they would come to like a regular concert hall here. When you go to a concert here at a big concert hall, everybody kind of knows the etiquette and everything. But when you go to a big concert hall, these are big concert halls in China. They're put in by the Republic, the People's Republic, and they're trying to get the people used to a concert environment, which means before the concert, they have spotlights on the guys that take their cell phones out and they confiscate them. And at the end of one concert, we actually had a fist fight going on at the end of the concert, because the guy had his cell phone confiscated, and he was fighting the what do they call the guys that go in between the
ushers?
Ushers, yeah, he was having a fist fight with the usher while we were taking our bows.
A lot more interesting over there than here.
Yeah, so they're pretty strict about not having your cell phone there, and not talk. They have to give this big lecture before every concert. That was the most interesting thing I think about that, because they're not used to. I guess they're not used to these kind of big classical concerts with the symphony and everything. But it was a good response, and we played great. And I also danced tango every night while I was there. So they always had to be in tango. If you know anything about tango, it's always in dark, weird places, and it's the same in China. I would go. Give the address to my taxi driver, and he wouldn't know where it was, because it wasn't a place where tourists usually go or anything. And so he would just drop me off at this into this black street, and I would try to find. Sometimes I just listened for the tango music, and I would find the place. But it was. They always looked for me in the morning to see if I got back.
That sounds like a good short story. You never told me that one, but I'm already thinking of a story.
Potential collaboration.
Right.
Now, Christina has the most interesting traveling story, and she did a documentary on it. That she took a circus to Guantanamo Bay. So talk about that a little bit.
Right. So I grew up. I grew up commuting between Los Angeles and Germany, Switzerland, Austria. And my family was very steeped in classical music. So I got all that training, but I was also very excited about the cabaret and circus that I saw in Europe. And so circus was really where my true heart was. So I always say I'm a circus performer whose trick is I can sing opera. And so in 2006, quite a while ago, at the peak of the controversy over Guantanamo, I was invited to go with a very small circus, some ex-Cirque du Soleil members. We were taken down to Guantanamo Bay to perform there. And I thought, are we performing for the detainees? And they're like, no. And I thought, oh, we're performing for the soldiers. I'll wear something sexy. And they said, no, it's for the children. I'm like, children in Guantanamo Bay? And so it was very surreal. And I had no intention of making a documentary, but one of our clowns surreptitiously shot, so stole some footage. And then several years later, almost 6 years later, I put it together in a short documentary called Guantanamo Circus. And that's available on Amazon Prime and Roku. And it doesn't make any strong political statement. It lets the viewers, see for themselves. It's sort of like the clown always had diplomatic immunity. And so I was feeling that through the eyes of a clown, you see what's happening. And actually what I was proud about the documentary is people on both sides of the political spectrum, on opposite sides of the political spectrum, appreciated the documentary. So I felt that we accomplished something in not making any kind of propaganda piece. We just, through the eyes of a clown, saw Guantanamo. So Guantanamo Circus.
And the documentary won an award as well. So
it did. It won. Thank you. Yes. It won the Hollywood Fame Award. And then also the Library of Congress asked to have it in the permanent collection, which is rare. Only a few films a year are picked for that. So that was actually very reassuring to know that it's there for eternity, that they'll protect it.
So in addition to being a writer, a filmmaker, a musician, you're also an actress. And so you've taken all of these passions of yours and have created these beautiful, I'd say, art forms that you get to share with others. And two things that come to mind are albums that you produce. One is Circus Sanctuary, and the other one is Voodoo Princess. Can you talk to us a little bit about them?
Yes, so both my albums, I produced them quite a while ago. And having had the classical background, I took a lot of classical tunes that were public domain, but then rearranged them. So I took the Carmen Habanera, but made it more of a salsa cumbia. And I took O mio bambino caro by Puccini, but made it sort of tropical, Kenny G. And so my first album, Circus Sanctuary, I was back in my early 20s, I was working a lot of clown gigs. And so with the money I made from clown gigs, I made Circus Sanctuary. And then later I was working as a hula dancer. And with the money I made as a hula dancer, I made Voodoo Princess. And on both albums, I hired a lot of great studio players who had played with everybody, and too many to name. And so I have these great musicians just soloing away on the albums and really bringing it to life. So it's not all just computer. It's a lot of great live musicians. And then I took my vocals out and used just the instrumentals as the soundtrack for Guantanamo Circus. But so that I didn't have to pay for a score. But so my two albums, Circus Sanctuary and Voodoo Princess, are both on Spotify, iTunes, Apple Music. Although I think you have to look up my name, Christina Linhardt, because I think I did see another Voodoo Princess out there. Someone stole it, but yeah, it's all out there online in Spotify.
Watch it. And John, you touched on something at the beginning. You said that the two of you are working on another collaboration. Can you share with us a little bit about that?
Yes, I'm the one that's diligently trying to work on it. I have to say that because she's a little upset I'm not finished yet. But yeah, it's a great children's story that Christina wrote, and I kind of commissioned it for her. I gave her the idea because I used to listen to a lot of word jazz, and I'm always doing these children's concerts in my orchestra. We do like 5 or 6 a year or something, and I always feel like, wow, this is I have an idea for this kind of thing. And in this word jazz that I listen to, this particular person is named Ken Nordine. He's in the 50s and 60s. He became very popular for this style of word jazz where he takes a color, a word, a green or blue, and he gives it character in the story. And behind that word, he'll have jazz music, like improvised, and he just speaks over it. He used to go to jazz cafes all the time and do these live performances. So I asked Christina, can you write something that uses the musical terminology, musical terms, like, allegro or bass clef and things like that. Can you write a story that uses all these words, and then I'll try to figure out how to put music to these things. And she came up with another circus idea. And tell them the name of it.
So it's Benny's Allegro Carnival. And I remember when John first mentioned it, and then I went away to Switzerland and I was on Lake Lucerne, and it just all sort of came to me. John inspires me to write. I have to say that a lot of my writing came from just John saying, hey, here's an idea. And so it was anthropomorphizing the musical terms so that kids could relate to characters. So we have the characters Mrs. Treble Clef and Mr. Bass Clef, so that all of them had personalities, so that kids could then relate to musical terms as characters and start to get to understand musical terms. But it's all seen through the eyes of a teddy bear, except the teddy bear doesn't have any eyes. He's only going into the world of music. So all we have to do is finish it up. And
he's being led around by Princess Aria. Is that the name?
The Aria Fairy. The Aria Fairy.
The Aria Fairy.
So it's a way that hopefully, because it was always important to me, I felt in the United States, having grown up in Europe, in the United States, kids don't have as much classical music education. You see it much more in Asian countries. You see it much more in European countries. And I don't see it as much in the US. And I really believe in the Mozart effect, that listening to classical music is really good for the brain. And so the hopes is that this piece will help get more and more children involved in classical music, interested in classical music.
So it's during this pandemic, both of you have really taken advantage of your love.
Solitude.
Uses have been at an all-time high. Would that be fairly accurate to say?
I didn't quite catch that, but I'm not having a very good time. She's got a fiance now. Not just not a significant other. This is she just got engaged. But for me, every day I'm trying to figure out what to do with myself. I have a lot of projects, but I'm not used to being like alone. I'm just alone all the time. So this is kind of rough. But I do think that people that like musicians like she and I, or people that are artists, we spend so much time practicing by ourselves. It's not too shocking. It's just that when I'm not practicing, I'm going in front of a couple thousand people playing a concert. And I'm in environments where there's all kind of people, like a lot of people. So I don't have that part is gone. The closest thing that comes when I go to the supermarket, I see people, but you don't see their face.
That reminds me of the quote from Janis Joplin. And her quote was, "Every night I make love to 1,200 people on stage, and then I go home alone." And it's sort of like that. But you got a lot done on our children's piece. You got a lot done, and then the Spirit Solitude. So you got a lot done. The beginning of quarantine, I took all that time to put together a book because I worked with Alzheimer's patients doing theater as therapy, but it's mostly poetry. And so the Alzheimer's patients had together, I would give them images and they would say words, and then I'd write it down in poems. And I had years of that. And so during this quarantine, I was able to compile it all into a book about working with Alzheimer's patients, using creativity with Alzheimer's patients, and also using their poetry. So it was good to have that time.
I look forward to talking to you about that in the near future.
Thank you.
Yeah, Christina just doesn't talk about helping homeless or whatever. She's out there doing something. So that's really, I really respect her for that. That's really something.
Thank you.
I just go out and dance.
Speaking of dancing, I know that both of you, I know, John, that you love to dance, and I've had the pleasure of watching you in action. And Christina, I know that you mentioned a little bit about dancing as well. So is that an area that the two of you have explored, not together, but have you explored it during this pandemic as well and created something?
Well, I think that's how we reconnected, is John and I had done a concert together for the Goethe Institute. And actually, I found a newspaper clipping of that with a picture of us. I'll try to get that to you. We had worked together, and then we stayed on each other's email lists, and then I saw he was dancing, so then we did some tango dancing, and then together John was teaching me some tango dancing, but then I came to some of his concerts, and then that just inspired writing.
She wrote some incredible verse to the experience of that particular concert, and even my orchestra wanted to hire her as a reviewer, but they cannot pay enough money for sure. But I'll never forget one of the quotes. This guy was playing a Debussy piano. I forget what the piece was.
Rachmaninoff.
Rachmaninoff. Was it Rachmaninoff? You sure it was Rachmaninoff?
Yeah, it was the Rocky.
And she said,
no, Shostakovich.
I think it was Debbie. It was some French Ravel or something. It was French because her description of his sound was, it was a koi pond of love. So I never heard a description like that. It was very interesting.
I can only imagine what your wedding vows are going to be.
Yeah, I've talked about that, and part of me says, let's just not even have a ceremony.
I have a piece to play.
Oh, okay.
Music. I'm working on a solo version of Traumerei, the Schumann.
Oh yes, yes.
Does that mean dream or reverie? What does it mean, Traumerei? Dream.
Traumerei, basically like a traum is dream, but like a reverie. You're right. I think I sang. There are words to that, aren't there?
I've never seen the words. I want to see them, so you're gonna have to text me the words.
Yeah, I think there were, because I think I sang that for a wedding somewhere. Traumerei somewhere.
She's, by the way, Christina's father was an extremely important German linguist or ambassador for Germany or something. What was it exactly?
Yeah, so he ran the German department at USC, but he also started the Max Kade Institute for German, Austrian, Swiss Studies. So we grew up in the diplomatic world, and he also was very big on German-Jewish reconciliation. He started the German-Jewish dialogue because he felt a lot of German guilt for the Holocaust, even though he was only 6 years old when World War II ended. He grew up behind the Iron Curtain, and then he came here, and he created a safe space for second-generation Germans and Jews from the Holocaust to meet and be able to find healing. So he was rewarded with medals of honor for that, and then also his work was on German immigrants here in the United States. So.
You both have such fascinating backgrounds. The more you share, it's like, oh wow, I didn't know that. Like that's really fascinating. Do you find that? So you just mentioned talking about your dad. Are there things that he's done that have impacted things that you do now, or even in the way that you express yourself through your art form?
Definitely the whole German cabaret thing, because we were in Germany so often, and so that sort of became my niche here in town, was the German cabaret. And then I guess with the whole his work on his work community, the German Jewish reconciliation, that hasn't been my path, but other sorts of I guess you would say humanitarian work. I mean, working with the veterans, although in no way do I feel like I'm helping the veterans. I feel like they're helping me. I mean, the exchange that I do with the veterans is amazing. So I think definitely the German cabaret, and then the humanitarianism, I think.
Christina is a par excellence entertainer, a jack of all trades. She also works at the Magic Castle. She performs at the Magic Castle, very famous place in Los Angeles. You have to have a special pass and all kind of things. It's not just, oh, I got a gig there. It's very difficult to get a job there.
When it comes to the dancing, anyone who knows you rather well, or even those that may not know you well, know that you have this love for dancing, and you've competed. In fact, am I accurate?
Yeah, I got in I guess I was in the finalists of the LA's top salsa dancers.
So the two of you, Christina and as well as John, what's in store for 2021? I mean, obviously, we're hoping that that we reach some type of normalcy, but well, in the event that some normalcy does not arrive sometime soon, what types of projects are you going to be working on? You've already mentioned a collaboration the two of you are in the process of, and I guess what other things can we expect? Can viewers expect, and your fans, and because both of you are work in outlets where you have audiences. You're all about being on stage. So what do you hope for in 2021?
Right. Well, we have no idea what's going to happen. I mean, hopefully there will be normalcy with a vaccine and eventually enough people reaching herd immunity. And historically, pandemics burn out on their own, period. Otherwise, we wouldn't have survived the Black Plague or the Spanish flu. And they didn't have a vaccine. So historically, it has, we have to burn out eventually. I made a second documentary called Troy, the Original Ladyboy, about this amazing crooner. He was just this amazing singer. And so I'm hoping to release that. Not quite sure what outlet we're going to go for with that. And what?
I thought that was already out.
It premiered, it showed at the Heartland Film Festival. We were flown in for their first ever Pride Stride, and we had the rainbow carpet, and so it premiered at the Heartland Film Festival, which is a big one, and also the Burbank Film Festival, but we haven't released it, and I think probably we'll see if we can get it on Amazon Prime, and then try to get a couple of my books published, but it's harder to publish books than it is to publish magazine articles. And then I created a million sizzle reels for a million different docu-series. But you know how the industry is, so.
Christina has tentacles out in every genre. It just depends, it just depends on if people like me finish their jobs and they got one out.
But right, yes, we're going to finish Benny. We're going to finish our piece.
Yeah, she's threatened to come over and just stand over my shoulder and watch me finish it. But I'm going to get on it.
With a whip. I'll bring the whip.
Yeah, and but that's probably the next biggest project. I also have I'm practicing. I got a lot of solo pieces, so I might do some more solo things on the YouTube. But I think this children's story is going to be really something. It's incredible thing she wrote. So I have to finish my part.
I'll be over soon.
Speaking of the original piece that we talked about, the Solitude, right now I'd love to share with viewers just a glimpse of it.
Yeah, great.
Let's take a look.
The spirit of solitude is an unwanted guest. She haunts my halls. An unforgiving whisper. She reminds me of humanity's pain.
Viewers are definitely going to enjoy this full piece, and I'll be airing it at the end of our interview. But I loved the editing. I have to say, it was really creative how it was done, where you can see John at his finest performing, and then you have like this cameo, this beautiful. It made me think of, and I say this in a positive way, almost like a ghost, like this fairy.
That was the idea.
Yeah, this beautiful image of you then, Christina, sharing with us, your words, and the words are so poignant and so fitting with what you were saying about the pandemic and the solitude and the fact that the despair that many people are feeling. So it really is a treat, and it was so beautiful to listen to, and very calming and soothing, I must say.
Yeah, I've gotten both ends of the spectrum. I've got the whole spectrum of responses from this thing. My best friend, when he heard it, and he lives also on the East Coast like you, he says, "Well, it was really great playing, John. What do you want me to go kill myself now?" Because it's kind of dark. It's a little bit dark.
Right.
And then I got great responses from the director and the conductor of my orchestra, and they did a nice little blog for us, and they put it on their site. So it, for me, I feel like it really demonstrates what goes through my head when I'm playing, because like I said, I don't memorize notes. Once I have the notes down, I memorize a story that goes with the notes. Like the video that I made right before this one was Bach's Chromatic Fantasy. Very difficult piece. It's almost impossible on the viola. And that thing's 15 minutes long. And I couldn't memorize it very well. And so I made up a little story. I told Christina how I was memorizing and stuff, and maybe that was before this project, so maybe she got that in her brain a little bit too. I don't know, but that's how I perform usually, and that's how I can survive in the orchestra, because usually the viola part is kind of it's the center of the music. There's really you're never in the limelight very often in the music. So when you're just playing a whole note while everything's going around you, and you maybe have to play 60 nights of the same thing, the only way you're going to survive is to have a story that goes with the music, make it interesting. You can only analyze the music so much when you're listening to it. This is a D major, blah blah blah. This chord, this rhythm. I got a count here, whatever. After you've played it a whole bunch, it's easy to become bored with the music, so you create a story in your brain. You know, to oh yeah, that's interesting. This is coming. You know, so you don't get, and it actually makes you play a lot better too. So that's
Thank you for sharing that insight because I wouldn't have known that. And to our viewers, that's it's nice to see what musicians are thinking as they're doing it because you're correct. You're doing this night after night, and depending on how long or how often, I mean, this could be months perhaps. That yeah, I never thought about that. I just when and I've had the pleasure of watching you perform, and it's just breathtaking, and it's just such beautiful music and soothing, and gosh, it's just gorgeous. But I never thought that. Yeah, from my perspective is very different from you that you're doing it on a regular basis, the same thing day after day. So thank you for sharing that tidbit with us. Well, I get the feeling that this piece that you collaborated on, you never know what, once we reach some type of normalcy, where it might go.
Mm.
I am envisioning the two of you performing this live for a big audience.
well,
So
that's a live. That's pretty much a live performance that we did, and that's what we designed it as. We even have a dancer that's going to dance in between us behind a black screen with a light, you know. But we can't do anything with it because we're shut down.
yeah, yet, but it
But
will
it's-
happen.
Right, and it's nice to make such a good video of it that is eternal. But yes, I look forward to getting to do it in some sort of chamber music situation.
Without a doubt, I'm predicting that's definitely going to happen, and I hope I have the pleasure of seeing it live. But I'd like to thank the two of you for your time, for your artistic love, passion, for sharing with us the creative process, for sharing with us this beautiful performance. And I look forward to hearing more from both of you. And to our viewers, if you want to hear more of their music, more of this particular performance, you can check out John at John Acevedo on YouTube and Christina Linhardt on YouTube as well. And just thank you to both of you and continued success. Please stay safe.
You also thank you very much for the interview. It's really nice of you.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you. This has been beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
The spirit of solitude is an unwanted guest. She haunts my halls. An unforgiving whisper. She reminds me of humanity's pain. My pain. All of our pain. She demands our attention. The spirit of solitude. Draws me in. my despair, searching, seeking, forcing me to face what I don't want to see. She offers me silence, a silence that evokes both pain and hope. A deafening silence that drowns out creation. Looking out the window, the world as we know it has changed. Nature takes over, while humanity stops. The spirit of solitude takes me by the hand. She has so much to teach me. There is so much to learn. The spirit of solitude is an unwanted guest. She haunts my halls, an unforgiving whisper. Amidst a storm of feelings, swirling around me, pulling me back and forth, amidst a storm of feelings. The spirit of solitude takes me by the hand. Only through her depths am I led to discover my true self.